Okay, Dr. Owens, here we are. You got some questions for me with regards to marketing and such. Dan Brown here, Bloomberg Digital. Fire away.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting, isn't it? Because usually you are interviewing me about dentistry, but now it's my turn to pick your brain about marketing, because I have a lot of interest in it, and it's not something I have a ton of knowledge about. I think a lot of dentists don't have it. I know a lot of dentists don't have very much knowledge on it. And so I want to kind of have some questions here I'd like to go through with you and just pick your brain. Just tell me your thoughts on these questions, and we'll just kind of go from there and just see where it leads us. Does that sound good?
Yep.
Okay, so first one I have is, what do you think is the most overlooked aspect of marketing for dental practices when we're trying to scale?
Great question. So the basics of marketing. And so let's break it down. There's two different aspects. People often wonder, like, what is marketing? How is that different than public relations? What is public relations? Where does advertisement come into all that? I can supply you a whole theoretical breakdown on each one of those things. But if you get the idea, marketing is the end result of people knowing about your business, and as a result, desiring it if they're a target public and coming in to see you for it, choosing you over others. So if we take a look at where does public relations come into that? Well, that's the idea that your business, your product, your team, your culture, your offering, your approach to all those things is well thought of and desirable, and somebody likes you, even if it's just based off what they see you do in the community. You're well thought of, and that is starting with your Google reviews, your online profiles. So I can find out about you, hear from you from a friend, see one of your ads, maybe drive by your place, but that doesn't mean I'm sold on you. So what am I logically going to do next? Let's just take Joe Consumer. Joe Consumer. I just drove by, thought, I haven't been to a dentist in a little while. Am I just going to call you up, Google you and call you up and set an appointment? Or would you think that there might be other steps that the average consumer today might do? What do you think?
There's more steps.
And what would those steps be, just logically from what you know?
Well, just for me, if it's a restaurant or something, I'm going to start doing some research, find out, is this place any good?
Right. And where are you going to look for that?
I'm going to look at Google reviews, might check out Yelp. Yep. I don't know, any of those avenues.
So that's called public relations. That's not marketing. That's public relations. So public relations is your image. How are you considered? How are you looked at broadly by, your general community? And your average consumer, in your case, a patient, they're going to trust another person who'd been to your practice and other people who know of you 10 times more than they're going to trust what you have to say on your website. Did you notice you said that before you said, well, I'm going to go read your website? Nobody's going to go read, a company's website. Yeah, maybe if I'm looking for a very specific product or service and I'm wondering if this company does that or covers that or how they do it, I might drill into their website. But a lot of people are still going to start with reputation management. And that's your Google profile. Some people are going to check out social media channels so they can do a virtual walk-in to that practice. And they're not going to literally walk in. You don't want them to walk in, but they don't have the time, resources, energy, they're backed off. They're still concerned. The jury is out on you. So they're going to virtually walk in via your Google business profile, photos and videos you have on there, any testimonials that have been uploaded there. They might go visit your website, but they might be even quicker to go to your website than check out your social links, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, if it's there. And take a look at, what is it? Is it generic? Does it look corporate? Does it look like it's bottled content that you're just reproducing because you hired some social media company to do, 15 bland posts every month? Or is it a real, it's a contact-based business that really cares about its consumers, again, in your case, patients. So that's the public relations, but there's a marketing twinge. I just mentioned social media, somebody who's going to go take those photos and keep a routine feed going, reviews, not just what you're rating, but how many in comparison to everybody else in your area. So these are the basics. And those basics, if not in place, can totally undermine marketing, traditional marketing as we know it. So let's call traditional marketing your Google ads, a marketing funnel for implants or Invisalign, your website. I'm not going to get to your website if I can't get past your reputation management. That making sense?
Yes, of course.
So I would say people want the big stuff. They want an effective social media strategy. They want a marketing funnel. They want to launch Google Ads. But not having had that profile set up, even if a Google ad works, somebody gets, okay, I see you, or a postcard. They oh, hello. They're going to look you up on Google. Okay, good. You got 64 reviews. Good star rating. But if I look in your area and everybody else has got 100 to 400 reviews, you're the dirty dog in the area. There's something that is implied that to me as a consumer, something's wrong here. You're either new, it's not a big deal for you, you're not active in that, whatever.
I love it. Okay, I love the idea of the virtual walkthrough too. That's pretty cool. So do you think that there is a difference in the way that you market as you go from single location to multiple? Let's just start saying we're scaling up now. In my circumstance, I have 5 locations. Is there going to be a difference, or are we just going to take everything one location at a time? What are your thoughts on that?
Another great question. So there's lots of different answers to that question depending upon circumstances. So we had one practice that had 13 locations, but it spread literally between 2 different states, differential geographical distance between these practices and such. So with that practice, each one of them, shared a name. So it was the name and then the area or region or city. In some cities, they had 3 or 4 locations. They did a little bit of independent branding in that regard, but by and large, each one of these had to have their own independent marketing strategy. Just from a local search perspective, geography, Google Ads, SEO, etc., you could not couple that all under one brand because you couldn't optimize that for a geographical region. So that was one thing. It all had the same name, so you could do a centralized website with single pages of independent locations pages and then optimize that. It was pretty complex, but we navigated that. And we had our SEO team do an analysis of the area, the competition, what would be best. So a couple of the practices stood independent, and then a number of the practices were grouped under a centralized website. Now, right down, the road in a multi-practice ownership scenario where it was one owner who had acquired 3 different practices, started his own, and then acquired 2 additional. He kept the branding of those 3. We were actually able to group those 3 practices under one website because of the geographical proximity of those. Another scenario where a similar thing, 3 practices, but total different plan by the owner. The owner wanted to, at one point, have the ability to sell each of these individual practices independently. So we branded each independently and created separate campaigns independently so that it could be sold and severed without losing the business model of that practice and collapsing it subsequent to the sale, and without cutting off an important limb of a strategy that had all been planned with 3 practices. So I could go on all day about that. I'd say very important question for a practice owner or a multi-practice owner to decide upon, but really seek advice and guidance specific to your end game and your existing scene of geographical branding and such, and let us help, give some guidance and direction.
Yes. Okay. That sounds pretty similar to what we do, right? So every patient that comes in depends on their end goal is and what we're trying to do. And so all these treatment plans are different. You're basically giving treatment plans to single practice, multi-practice, doesn't matter. It could be different depending on what the needs are. All right. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yep. Moving on, what are the foundational elements every dental practice should have in place before investing heavily in marketing? I guess you kind of answered that to begin with.
A little bit, but we could extend that. Yeah. So those are the basics. Of course, you need a website, and today's website needs to scratch the itch of the consumer. So we all want a beautiful, flary, pretty, sexy, feature-rich website. And that can really be a double-edged sword on that one because we want it to be nice and sexy. We saw this dentist in Manhattan who had this really different website and stuff. But to the normal consumer, that website lacks convention being what we're used to. So to give an example, Amazon, every time they make a significant and amazing improvement to their site of just one slight little change, they typically lose hundreds of thousands of dollars on that change. Not because it wasn't a smart one, but because people aren't used to it. People We're looking for a button that is no longer in the same location. It's in a smarter location now. The layout is actually better, but it has cost them hundreds of millions of dollars to learn that convention is more important than development or innovation, if that makes sense.
Yeah. 100%.
So a website that is consumer friendly, marketing friendly, we call it convention friendly. Great book by Steve Krug right here. Steve Krug says, listen, I'm a lazy fat American who I've been paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to go into companies to do UX studies, so user experience studies, to go through UI, user interface, and UX within a website, mostly consumer sites. And it's a 40-minute read. Don't Make Me Think Revisited. I highly suggest reading it. It's very entertaining. He's high end, and he just got tired of answering all the same questions and charging people, gobs of money to answer these questions. So he wrote a book. This tells you how to lay out your website, lay out your postcards, lay out and think like a consumer rather than think like a business owner. Very important. Our target public is who we need to, cater to and who we need to consider, not our needs and not us compared to the next guy. So website with those basic strategy points in mind, thinking like a consumer, convention, don't do something really wild and Filari, unless you're Beverly Hills or Miami or Manhattan, and social media channels. A lot of people freak out when they hear a 55-year-old seasoned consultant mention TikTok. And I don't even know if TikTok is going to be here next week. Who knows? But any social media channel that you can be active on, I'm going to say. But where do we start? Always Facebook, then Instagram, because it's owned by the same company, Meta, and then add TikTok or whatever the next thing might be. A YouTube channel. It's a must. Got to have a YouTube channel. It's free. It's easy. That's where you're going to host your video testimonials. That's where you're going to host your doctor interviews, your explainer videos of what's the difference between a bridge, a traditional bridge, and an implant. This is where you're going to host it. And then you're going to embed those YouTube links on your website, not host them on your website, because Google owns YouTube and Google likes Google. So we want to scratch the itch of that. And Google likes their videos on YouTube being embedded in websites. So social media channels, basic, Facebook, then Insta, and then maybe eventually TikTok. YouTube channel, website, your overall profiles. If you're in a metropolitan area such as, Chicago, the tri-state, Miami, Tampa, Houston, Dallas, Austin, LA, Bay Area, Yelp is a big deal for dentistry. And so you need your Yelp profile in shape. And if it's not a big deal in your area, then get your Yelp profile in shape anyhow, because it is coming. Mm-hmm. So those would be the things I'd say. That's where we would probably start.
Okay, cool.
On top of that, then we start going, okay, good, I need patients now. Good, we're going to, do what we're doing with you in a couple of your practices, the digital reactivation program. Get money in the door, get patients at the door right now so we can fund further marketing. Google Ads, great. Search engine optimization, SEO, for organic search so people can find you when they're searching dentist near me. That's a long game. That's the longest marketing channel. Takes the longest time, is expensive, but probably one of the most important. And then, marketing funnels after that.
Great. And I want to jump into that in just a second, but I want to springboard a little bit because we're still on the basics.
Yeah.
Especially for someone like me who's, I'm working on 20 years. There's dentists who might be watching this longer than me. Marketing has changed and shifted. I know when I first got into marketing, I was doing the mailers and the billboards and that kind of stuff. How do you think, I would consider that maybe old school traditional ways. How do you think that compares now with the way, the newer ways? And are those still effective, or is that kind of out?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's out. I hear that a lot. Hey, listen, we don't do postcards anymore because we're, those are dead. I don't find them to be dead. I'd say that's a channel to test and a channel to explore. Direct mail, newsletters that include fun things about your community, crosswords, fun recipes, featuring patients, that sort of thing. Maybe a little health tip here or there. Super cool. Super cool if you could do it electronically and physically. I don't think direct mail will ever be out. It's more, how is it designed? Do you see there's so much junk when you get home to your mailbox? Again, just think like a consumer. What do we typically do? We grab that pile out of the mailbox, take out anything important, personalized, bills, financial, etc. We end up with our junk stack. Most of us typically walk over to the recycle bin and just give it about this long is what I found. Out, 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 out. So you've got a quarter of a second to make an impression. How do you design that postcard or that piece of direct mail? But test it as a channel. There are areas that I would say direct mail would be 7th on my list of a plan. And then maybe in the middle of Idaho where there's like 2 dentists in town, direct mail is kind of sitting at the top. And Google Ads probably never, So again, custom to a practice.
Yeah, right back to the kind of treatment plan idea.
That's right.
So going on that kind of thought there, what are some specific marketing channels that you think provide that highest ROI, which is return on investment, thank you, for dental practices? Like, what do you think are the best channels to get you that return on investment?
Good. So highest ROI for me and what I recommend our clients is anything you can do now and inexpensively is always first. So lowest hanging fruit, like we're doing with a couple of your practices, these reactivation program, dead cheap, it's like a couple grand in. I don't know what you made in the first month, but any idea?
I haven't looked at those analytics, but it's a lot.
Yeah. Typical, we see somewhere between $10,000 and $40,000. That's just crazy. That's crazy ROI. It's not new patients. But some of them are going to be like new patients because you haven't seen them in 5 or 7 years. So it's got a feel of new patients. But it's a marketing channel that gets people in the door, and people in the door now mean they're going to get healthy and they're going to need work and you're going to take care of them. So that's high return on investment. Also high return on investment, a very effective internal marketing strategy. Internal marketing is always, we find it with our clients. Our clients and most dentists love referred patients more than any other channel of new patients because the person comes sold on the practice, not necessarily sold on the treatment plan, but sold on the practice. So that's a huge hurdle. So what can you do to invest money into your staff, fund games, programs, etc., to incentivize your staff to be a little bit more impinging on the patients, to refer their family members that are local, friends that are local, incentivize the team, not necessarily the patients. I hear a lot of people do that. Oh, we'll give you a $50, towards your treatment if you refer. Okay. I don't know. It feels like you're buying me off a little bit. If you're telling me you're going to give me $50 if I send somebody, I'm not opposed to it, but some people can take that weird. But if you incentivize the staff, hey, you get somebody, one of your patients to come in and they book and they show and they arrive right at the morning huddle. Hey, Cindy got Joe Blow to come in and Joe Blow, is going to get healthy because Cindy cared. Cindy, what patient helped get Joe Blow in? Oh, that's Joe Blow's wife. Excellent. Cindy, $50 gift card to send everybody, name and fame them and incentivize them financially. Watch what happens. So effective internal marketing strategies, referral campaigns, care enough to share, anything that popularizes taking responsibility to get people healthy and live longer lives. So that's what we say to our team. That's what we say to our patients. So that's as far as an ROI that's high, it's a great patient. It's generally pretty cheap and it's the patients we like the most. Then going from there, Google Ads, probably one of the fastest, not cheap, but fastest to get people in the door. Any sort of groups that you're involved in. So say you're part of a mountain biking club or your kid's in a karate class or whatever, find out what help they need. Not to get your name and branding there, but just, okay, good. My kid's in karate. Good. I'm sponsoring, a new gi and fun, pads, as part of a contest for, my kids, class. So they're all 8-year-olds. So if they show up with a smile, they listen, they got a good attitude, then they can be voted in, student of the month. And they get 3 of them and they all get, and watch the parents. They go, wow, that's so cool. My kid loves his new pads and his new uniform. What do you do? Oh, I'm a dentist down the road. So anything like that, it's cheap. That's cheap. A few $100 to do something like that. Goodwill, that's public relations, but it results in marketing. And then it just goes exponentially from there as far as cost, trial, SEO, investing 8 to 15 months before you see that return. But knowing that 7 out of 10 people will never click an ad. They will only go to an organic result when they search a browser. They will never click a sponsored or an advertisement. They'll always go down looking for an organic result. So getting to the top organically is important, but it's expensive getting there. So probably a lot longer answer than you anticipated.
No, that's what I was looking for. I want to go back to the beginning of the answer too. I'm going to use a term here I know you're very familiar with, some may not be as familiar with, and that is churn rate. Okay, so for anybody that might wonder, churn is a word we use in the software industry. I'm familiar with it. I have a dental software, and that refers to the people you're losing monthly. So you're churning through. So each month on a certain software, they're going to be losing a certain amount of people, and that's just normal. So in a dental office, we also churn. Like we also are losing patients out the back door. We don't know it. We may not have no idea about that, right? So you can always look. It's like a dentist has been a dentist for 10 years. They have 3 hygienists, and for 10 years they've had 3 hygienists. But they're getting 30, 40, 50, 60 new patients a month, but they're never adding any hygiene. They're churning. There is, you're losing some patients out the back door. What are some ideas or methods that we can use in marketing to either prevent churn or get those people back in the fold?
Okay, good. So first is a recognition, like what you just said, so many people can't, they don't think with that basic math. And when they do, they freak out a little bit, like, oh my gosh. And it's all up to that point. I just need more new patients. I need more new patients. But I say, listen, imagine this. You sell apples. So you get in your truck in the morning, you drive down to the orchard, you load the back of your truck with apples, and you drive to the market to sell the apples. But you don't have a tailgate. So by the time you get to the market, you got about, a third or a fourth of the apples you started with, but you still made enough to make the business model work. But it's tight, so you don't get a tailgate. You can't afford the $1,000 for the tailgate. The next day you just do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again. This is literally what's happening. That problem you just identified is not generally understood by most dentists. So we call that retention and then reactivation. Our patients fall off the wagon all the time. That's a known thing. You're already starting from a back foot as a dentist because it's kind of a grudge purchase. Going to the dentist is not something it's not sexy. People don't enjoy it. It's not like, woohoo, get to go get, some people get enthusiastic about having clean teeth and sometimes a cosmetic case, right? But otherwise it's 100% I need to, not because I want to. So you're already battling with that. Then people are busy. We know that. So they don't necessarily do this when they should do this. So you've got to be on them. I see so many people so backed. Well, I send a newsletter every quarter. Is that too much? Okay. And how about routine communication? Well, we do send out 1, 2 every quarter, but it's a different time of the year. So I guess that's 2 a quarter. Is that too much? No. Think about this. Think about some purchase you made online. And, it's a store that you don't mind too much. And now all of a sudden you get an email every other day, every week, every other day, or maybe even every day, or maybe even a couple times a day. Does it happen to you?
Sure.
Do you unsubscribe from each one of these all the time? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Most people don't.
Most people don't. I just hire somebody to do it for me.
Most people don't.
But you're right. Most people don't. My wife definitely doesn't. Yeah. She gets tons and tons of emails.
Yeah. And so you cannot overwhelm today's consumer with it. And if you do, they'll unsubscribe. And that's okay. That's okay. Better that you get people getting your message and electing out of it than never sending the message. So you cannot over communicate to your over commercialized public. And to understand that your message is so senior to anything else that they're getting, because healthy teeth and gums extend people's life by 7 to 10 years by independent studies, not done by you nor I. So this is important. And it's our goal, our job, our responsibility to remind them of this routinely, and then keep it not too serious, have some fun with it, but yeah, you cannot communicate too much to your patient base. So that's the first thing for retention. Second thing, have a very aggressive retention program in place and a protocol so that if your automatic reminder system isn't working and people aren't staying on it, then jump on that. Stepping back from that, are you making sure that before they leave that practice, they have their appointment? Who's doing that? And is that system in concrete, or is it a little bit soft? Is it a little bit like, well, listen, how does that sound tentatively? Good. Well, we hope that, we'll see you Tuesday and, 6 months from now. No, you got to be very definite about it. Having your hygienist who's got a captive audience there to educate that patient of the importance of that. And hey, listen, keeping these pearly whites pearly and white is way less expensive than letting time go by and getting, gum disease, which in some cases you can never cure. You can only, that education process is huge. And then when they do fall off the wagon, be aggressive about that. And that's that digital reactivation program you're doing, but also just a general reactivation approach. So again, people tell me, well, I don't want to bother somebody. I don't want to, so we get told we call people and text people too much. A lot of our patients say that. Guess what my next question is? Oh, really? Which ones?
How many?
How many exactly? Well, a lot of them. Yeah. Okay. Good. Let's write them down. Let's get your staff together. How many and who? Well, Mrs. Smith. Okay. Good. Anybody else? Well, Mr. Smith. Okay, her husband. Right. Good. Anybody else? Well, Joe Jenkins. Okay. Good. Anybody else? I think there was one other at least. Wasn't there a lot more? Oh yeah, David Jones. Yeah. Good. So that's 4. Out of your 4,000. Oh yeah, good point. I see it. So you call these people quantitative pressure on anything. You get somebody reaches out. Yeah, you guys do cosmetic, right? Yeah, I'm looking at getting some veneers. Great. Yeah, all sounds good. Can we set that up and I'll get back to you next week? Okay, sure. You called that person every single day. And right after you call them and they don't answer because nobody answers their phone from a number they don't recognize, you leave a voicemail. And then when you're done doing that, you text them. And then when you're done doing that, you send an email if you got an email. It's a 4-step process, your outflow. 4-step process. And then you call them the next day. And then you call them the next day. And then you call them the next day. And you know how many times you do that? 12 to 16 times. And if they, by chance, pick up and say, my God's sake, would you stop calling me? I mean, and you just say, absolutely, I hate doing it too. I just want to get you appointed. So are we good for Thursday? Last time you came in was a Thursday. Yeah, let's end this pain. It's painful for me too. But people are so afraid of offending and scared to enforce when they shouldn't be. This is health. This is health. So get very, very proud of the fact and very, very noisy and make it medical. This is not the approach. Oh, hi. Yeah, we just want to follow up and make sure that you're still interested in coming and getting your teeth cleaned. This is not the approach. Hi, this is Becky. I'm calling. Dr. Owens asked me to reach out. So yeah, you missed your last appointment and it's kind of a concern. People with healthy teeth and gums live longer, but those people who don't have healthy teeth and gums are more susceptible to a whole number of systemic conditions. That includes heart disease, diabetes, stroke, cancer, Alzheimer's, dementia. So we're very, very concerned that you've missed your appointment. So how do we get you scheduled for either this week or next week? Is this week going to be better or next week? It's medical. It's not marketing. It's medical. So I'd say that's an orientation that, you've got a lot of experience with MGE, are helpful training to get your team to be very certain about their goal and their purpose and being impinging on that with their public. Not impolite, not weird, but just impinging. That's an internal office culture point. So
yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I don't want to mess up a quote here, but I'm sure you're familiar with about the stable datum of the size of the mailing list is directly proportional to the gross income of the organization.
Yeah. So the size, not the quality, and the number of mailing size of an organization's mailing list, and not the quality, and the number of mailings to it determines the gross income, which in our case is collections of an organization. So lots of communication to your mailing list, and your mailing list is your patient base. Lots of it, lots of communication, and the channels are just so numerous. Texting, emailing, direct mail, direct message through social media.
Now, I just want to give a shout out to this is not an advertisement, but we've been implementing the Bloomberg's reactivation and had just unbelievable response through texting. I mean, dozens of reappointments. I mean, I'm going to have to add another hygienist just through reactivation alone, and this has only been a month. We've only been doing it for a month.
Right.
So that's what had me interested in this whole churn rate. Is this? I don't have the exact ROI on it yet, but it's going to be high.
Yeah,
it's going to be high.
Yeah.
Okay. Outside of that, because I do want to touch on one thing really too, because I don't think a lot of dentists have a firm grasp on this, but I know organizations outside of dentistry, you look at Walmart or Amazon or anything, they know the exact cost per acquisition of a customer.
Yes.
I don't think we do. What do you consider a good acquisition cost for a marketing campaign?
Again, lots of answers to that question depending on where you are. Mm-hmm. So, and what kind of treatment you want. Are you predominantly cosmetic, implants, larger treatment type practice? Acquisition cost $800 to $2,000. It's a big number. Mm-hmm. It's a big number. A more restorative and a more, rural or suburban environment. Yeah. $200 acquisition cost. You're going to go down to Miami for a restorative practice. $600 to $800. Philadelphia, $400 to $800. Same for Chicago. You go outlying areas that are just kind of general everywhere. Kind of they call like Ohio. If it works in Ohio, it works everywhere. So Ohio is just very kind of plain Jane average as far as what America represents, and it's going to be somewhere between $100 and $300. And a lot of people still say, well, yeah, but that's why I don't market. I just want to do referrals. And if you can survive off that many referrals, great. But you've got to market. And even if your acquisition cost is $500, $600, say you're dialing in your marketing, you don't know. So you're still testing channels and you just don't know. So while you're testing channels, it's expensive because you're testing. You're not getting results yet. You got to dial in each marketing channel, your ads, your postcards. You got to design it well, but then you got to run it and make sure that it gets traction. So even if it's higher than that, what people often don't realize is that your first goal in any marketing campaign is just simply break even. You spent $3,000 and you made $3,000. And I'll get attacked for that. People will say, yeah, but it costs money to deliver that $3,000. There's supplies, there's lab, there's staff. Yeah, 100%. But every new patient acquired, successfully acquired and retained by independent studies will spend $10,000 in the life of that practice. Maybe not that first visit, sometimes in that first visit. But this is the average study. And we know those clients that have been MGE clients see a higher number because they're more skilled on acquiring, retaining, and optimizing the patient experience and getting treatment acceptance. But let's stick with $10,000. So every new patient has a lifetime value. Doesn't mean their lifetime, like how long they live. It's just the average lifetime of a patient is about 10 years is what they figure. About 10 years in a practice. From the guy who just comes once and never comes back to the person who's there generationally and their dad was a patient and their kids are patient. So 10 years, $10,000, $1,000 a year. Okay, that's a datum. Whatever you had to spend to acquire that person, that's $10,000 if they're successfully acquired and retained. Every successfully acquired and retained new patient will refer, on average, 2 additional patients. So truly, every new patient can be looked at as a value of $30,000. I know people can challenge that math. Yeah, but you're counting both new patients with the first one. And okay, whatever. Just what I'm trying to say is get out of the box on whatever the acquisition fee is and look at long term. And if you're well trained on treatment presentation and treatment acceptance, well, we know those numbers are going to be higher and that person's going to be healthier and happier and they're going to refer even more people. So spend the money you need to spend to market and get new patients in.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's no different than spending $10,000 going to an implant seminar, learning how to do implants. How long? Over the life of your practice, you're going to there's going to be a way, way higher return on investment for that. But at the beginning, it's just going to hurt a little bit. You're going to feel it a little bit at the beginning, but but that's not what you're shooting for.
That's right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so on that idea, what's the one marketing metric that most accurately reflects the health of a practice's marketing strategy? Just one metric that you would look at and say, I know there's lots of metrics, but what's one you're like, that's the first thing I look at when I'm evaluating a marketing strategy or practice?
Phone calls. Phone calls from new patients, prospective new patients.
I love it.
Not new patients, because new patients can be undermined if your protocols are not in place at reception or you don't have a well-trained reception. So it's number of prospective new patient phone calls. And that's what we monitor as a conversion in Bloomberg Digital. So that's a phone call that lasts over 1 minute. A new patient phone call that lasts over 1 minute. You might get a wrong number. Oh, isn't this the one right down the road? Oh, okay, yeah, my fault. All that's pretty much filtered out after a minute. Person's on the phone for a minute, and it's a potential new patient calling in on a tracking number.
Did your job.
Marketing's hitting. So now I just did a call yesterday with a group of 5 practices that has a call center, and they wanted to evaluate what they could do to make their marketing more effective. And I did an analysis of their calls. I looked at the number of missed calls they had and the number of leads that came in that we didn't have any evidence that they were being responded to. I didn't need to know anything else. So with them on the phone, with them on a Zoom call, I said, well, I have a theory, stand by. And I mystery called the call center. Yeah, and 2 of the executives nearly threw up. One of them wanted to stand up and go fire that person immediately. I said, relax. When was the last time you were in the call center, tearing that place up, making it fun, putting in drills? When was the last time that happened? It's been a couple months. Like, okay, couple meaning 2? No, probably more like 6 or 8. Right. So what happens when a phone call comes in is so important. It can undermine marketing efforts. I could have asked him, let's do another $2,000 in budget per practice, and got another $10,000 that went to Google that's just going to be wasted. Instead, we found out the problem. So it's a needful metric.
I love that.
Yeah.
Love that. I think if you ask most dentists, they would say, well, new patients. But
logical.
Yes, it's logical, but it makes sense because the marketing's job is to get them to call.
That's right.
And then it's our job to get their butts in the chair.
The marketing makes the phone ring. Your office gets them in. So probably got time for one more question because I got to do this next seminar coming up.
And this is the big one. If you could give one piece of advice to a dentist looking to expand their practice through marketing, what would it be?
Yeah, find a marketing company that can help you truly understand the needs, your existing scene, your competitive offerings around you. I don't call them competitors because I don't think we look at other dentists as competitors, but they are competitive offerings. And that they're going to give you an honest assessment of what they recommend you do and in what order. Those are marketing channels to add, in what order, with what budget, and really find one that makes sense and you feel good about it. Be willing to give them 2 to 3 months to show their colors and results. And it might take 6 months really to get you the kind of results you need, and then reevaluate. But and if you don't feel good about the first one in their assessment, then move and try others. I think that partnership is so important. 80% is going to be done by them. 20% is needfully done by the client, by the dentist. But 80% of the work is going to be done by them. Stick with what you know and outsource what you don't. You don't know how to run a Google ad. You don't know how to design a website. You should not be spending your time doing that. 20% of the time is handling the internal strategies, answering the phones, training your staff, grooving in the internal marketing campaign, social media content, getting some video testimonials. Yeah, 20%. It's going to be on you. But the 80% is a lot. So make sure that partnership is a great partnership. Great support, good enthusiasm, not just on one person, but on every aspect of that team. So I would say that would be more important than, here's the silver bullet that, because I don't think there's a more important element to that partnership.
I love that. I think that's one of the reasons I've been successful is I know what I don't know, and I partner with or hire people who are smarter than me in those areas.
So smart.
And that's why I'm here talking to you.
So smart. I mean, you nailed it on the head. You nailed it on the head. Stick with what you know, outsource what you don't, but then understand enough about what you're outsourcing that you can, kick some butt when you need to and bring the hammer down, but that you can also measure if it's going well or not or whatever.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, listen, I'm going to let you get to your seminar. Thanks for spending some time.
It's been
appreciate it. Yep.
Good
cool.
questions.
All right, cool.